Tommy, come on up here. Introduce Mr. Tommy Chandler to you. Tommy is a former state representative himself and a long and storied career in the legal profession here in Albany. And we stole him away from the profession a number of years ago. He's now general counsel for Phoebe Putney Memorial Hospital in the system. Tommy.
Thank you, Joe. Joe mentioned a few minutes ago the fact that this program has been here for some 20 years now. It came about as a result, really, of there was no medical training of this sort in our part of the state, and a study committee evaluated what the need may be for the growth of availability of physicians, and that study committee and that process resulted in a recommendation to the General Assembly to create a program. And Phoebe partnered with the state of Georgia to create a program here in this institution that has grown and flourished as it has over these years. Having said that, and pointed out the connection between the existence of the program, the General Assembly, it's appropriate that we have a member of the General Assembly here to speak to us today. Before I introduce our speaker, however, I want to bring attention to Senator Dean Burke, who's over here. Raise your hand, Dean. David. Representative Ed Reinders from Lee County. Representative Carol Fullerton from Albany. We appreciate the work that you all do and the importance you are not only to our community but to this institution. It's a privilege for me to introduce Representative Jay Powell to you today. Jay was born, I think, in Osceola, is that right? Quitman. Was born in Quitman, Georgia, and is a native of our part of the state, having returned here after he completed his education. During the time that Jay has served in the Georgia House of Representatives, which has been since 2008, he's been a very active member of the General Assembly, authored many bills and pieces of legislation. He's served in important positions. He's currently on the Appropriations Committee, the Governmental Affairs Committee, Judiciary Committee, the Rules Committee, the Ways and Means Committee, and those names I'm sort of ticking off to you are the important places for folks to be to get things done in the General Assembly. So, having said that, we're fortunate that Jay has been our friend. He's been a friend to health care in our part of the state and in our state in general. He's been a friend of this particular institution, and we appreciate the fine service that he's done. Before his time in the General Assembly, Jay served for 10 years as mayor of the city of Camilla, and during that time he took his year or so as president of the Georgia Municipal Association. He's been active in many affairs in his community, Rotary, etc., many things of that sort over a great many years. He practices law now in Camilla, Georgia, in the firm of Powell and Irvin. Jay is a graduate of Florida State University, and he took a law degree at the University of Georgia School of Law before he returned to practice in Camilla. So it's my privilege to present to you Representative Jay Powell.
Thank you, Tommy. Good afternoon. I want to tell you a little story. Some of my colleagues in the legislature have probably heard this before, but I think it makes a point that it needs to be stated today, and so I'm going to share this with you. I've got 3 daughters, and y'all can give me your condolences later, but I have 3 daughters, and the oldest one is named Jessica. And Jessica gave me a present for Father's Day about 6 years ago, and they were a pair of Docksiders and a good-looking pair of shoes. Now, I needed them. Mine were worn out. I tried them on, and they were a little loose. And I sort of scratched my head for a little bit because I don't buy shoes very often, but my recollection is that when you buy them and until you break them in, they're a little tight, a little snug. So I looked at the box, and the box says they were size 12. Well, I didn't want to hurt Jessica's feelings because she'd obviously shopped for a while, and I looked at her and I said, Jessica, I said, I love the shoes. They're really good-looking shoes. I said, but I wear a size 11, and these are size 12. She looked at me and she sort of cocked her head to one side and she said, I know that. She said, but all the 11s they had were ugly. Well, I scratched my head for a minute and I'm trying to figure out, where is she coming from and how did she come to this conclusion? And then I realized that what she had done was that she had focused on something that was very important to her, and that was fashion, how they look. I sort of focus on fit. I want to know how they feel. And so it taught me an important lesson, which is that we have always been told our entire lives, you got to focus, you got to focus, you got to focus. And what it brought to my attention is that it is not enough to focus. You got to focus on the right thing. And I think what we're here today is that we are here to celebrate this institution's focus on the right thing. And let me tell you what I'm talking about. We're talking about rural health care. We have focused here on rural health care. There are 108 rural counties in the state of Georgia. The rural counties have approximately half as many physicians and dramatic shortages of nurses, therapists, and nutritionists per capita as the metro counties. So we are focusing on our service area, which are rural counties. Next, we are focusing on primary care physicians. Why are they important? An increase of just one primary care physician is associated with 1.44 fewer premature deaths per 10,000 people. An increase of just one primary care physician per 10,000 population results in a reduction of overall spending by $684 per Medicare beneficiary. The addition of one primary care physician per 10,000 population results in 3.5 fewer people dying every year. So we're focusing on our service area, which is rural Georgia. We're focusing on what is going to give us the biggest impact per buck, which is primary care physicians. And then we've got to focus on how we are going to establish and get those primary care physicians here. And that is a residency program. It has been established throughout the United States that 60% of residents live, set up their careers within 60 miles of wherever they did their residency. So our focus is rural Georgia, our focus is primary care physicians, and our focus is on residency. So that's what we're here to celebrate. And I'm excited and honored to be here today to welcome the Phoebe Family Medicine Residency Class of 2015. As you take the next step in a career that will have such a lasting impact on countless people and Georgians, and particularly this part of the state. On a day like today, it's important to remember how this program began. It started as a true partnership between the state of Georgia and Phoebe Putney Memorial Hospital. In 1990, Representative Gerald Green championed the creation of this critically needed residency program. And the program started because of that, and as Tommy explained to you, it was a partnership that started almost 30 years ago. But it has continued and it has grown. And it's continued under the watchful guidance of legislators like those who are here today. The goal of the program was to address the shortage of physicians in rural and underserved communities in Georgia. And it's in fact succeeded and even exceeded the goal of placing 60% of graduates within 60 miles of Albany, where the residency takes place. This program is a true win for the community, the hospitals, and the residents. This program doesn't just bring highly skilled professionals to the community, but it builds a relationship with talented physicians like those sitting here today. And hopefully you will call this place home and continue to do so in the future, improving access to health care for this entire community. Understanding the success of this program, we in the legislature have taken steps to expand the number of residency slots available in the coming years. Specifically here in Southwest Georgia, by supporting and funding the Southwest Georgia Consortium, we will add 142 new residency slots over the next 3 years. Today, communities in South Georgia have 27.6% fewer family physicians per capita than the federal standard. And this is intended to reverse that trend. Our overall goal is to attract great doctors into primary care to to practice in critically needed areas of Georgia. These programs are a priority for the state, as these residents are a priority for this community. To you residents, I would like to make a suggestion. I know you're going to be in a demanding, time-consuming period of your life, but give this place a real chance to be your home. Become involved in the community. Become a part of this community, because there are great people here. There is a great future here. You're being welcomed, as you can see, with open arms, and this is the type of community that is a warm, caring, and welcoming group of people. Welcome.